Imagine if you wanted to talk to somebody, but they couldn't understand what you were saying. What would you do? Smoke signals? I don't think so. Pictures, I guess, are the simplest things. And there is a program that has been designed for modern multimedia, iPads, what else am I going to say? For people with autism and delayed speech, showing symbols and pictures so that they can communicate. An app has been developed by Lisa Domican, who's with me as we speak. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, how are you?
Why do autistic people who are suffering from autism, need symbols rather? Can't they speak?
About half of them would have very delayed speech development, and then half of those again would probably never learn to speak. And that's because autism is a sensory disability. Everything is distorted, whether it be under or over. They hear things too loud or they hear things too quiet. Mm-hmm. So they don't necessarily learn to imitate sound, but they are often strongly visual thinkers. They often think very much in pictures. So just like yourself when you're travelling in a foreign country.
Yeah, perfect example.
And you might see a shop that has the name of the shop and then you can see what's inside the shop. You can probably remember the word supermarsh because you can see it's a supermarket. The visual backs up the sound and it makes it easier for you to learn it very quickly, particularly if you're hungry and you're thirsty and you want to go to the supermarket.
So they do, clearly people with an autistic condition have thoughts which they wish to communicate. They just have no means to do it under normal circumstances.
Exactly.
Right. And the old system tended to involve books. You have one there.
Yep. I'll make a nice little Velcro crackle for the sound of it.
A giant book with far too many symbols. It's a bit like Chinese. Each one is a character.
Exactly. That's a very, very good analogy.
I'm good at that stuff.
The sequence of the pictures can change the meaning, and you can see I've got a sentence there that says, I want orange chocolate. So if you can think of your favourite chocolate brand, you might ask for the colour of the label and then have that handed to you, and you would be very happy because you've got your favourite thing, so there's no need to be angry or frustrated anymore. So step by step, we prompt an autistic person to hand over a picture in exchange for something that they like. And before we start, we always find out what they actually like, because everybody learns more quickly if you use the things that interest them.
And this is a system that has been employed for years, I take it.
Well over 10 years. It's called Picture Exchange Communication System. And it's fantastic because you can prompt it. You can prompt someone to make a sign for sign language. You can prompt someone to hand over a picture, but you can't breathe air through their larynx and make them make a word. So in order to make communication rewarding, you have to use something promptable. And seriously, the day that you teach someone who really wants a cookie to hand over a picture and you give them a cookie straight away, they learn those steps very quickly.
But, well, I'm getting this unfortunate image of training a dog where if you reward them with a cookie at the end of doing the trick.
Well, behavioural analysis is very straightforward. It's all about observable behaviour, and very often I've found, because I've worked with people who do horse training, the steps are very similar. Rather than working out what people feel or what they're thinking, you're just looking exactly at what they're doing and giving them a reason to do it again.
So before there was a means like the pictorial means that you have there, the old-fashioned one with lots of little pieces of paper and symbols, how did autistic people fare? Did they just put them in dungeons and give up?
No. I was very focused on giving my daughter a voice, so I committed a lot of time to learning how to do this, to printing the pictures and to giving her a means of communication so that she had a very large vocabulary. The problem is when your commitment starts to wane because you get sick of printing the pictures and putting the Velcro on, or their picture vocabulary is so huge that you're literally carrying around what is a huge A4 folder of pictures, so that wherever you might be, they can make a request or point out something that they want.
A piece of information in the cracks. Your daughter?
My daughter, Grace, yes.
She's autistic?
Yes. I have 2 children with autism.
Really?
My son Liam didn't talk at all, and I did this picture thing with him for 3 months, and because we were handing the pictures over and saying the words together, and he's a very clever boy, he started to repeat the words, he started talking, and within 3 months the picture book was forgotten about.
So notwithstanding the fact that he has aspects of autism, he can function in our world in a relatively...
Yes. He's still severely autistic, but he is very, very smart and very, very literate. So he was able to learn to speak. His world is very much shaped around what he wants to do.
What does he want to do? Because that's always fascinating with autistic people.
He's a big film buff.
Okay.
He loves DVDs. He loves finding the scene selection and putting the credits on.
So does he have an encyclopedic knowledge of some very small detail that appears in every film?
Yes, he can cross-reference all the actors, including voice actors from animation, and tell you which other films. He's like IMDb, but a person.
Yeah.
And he retypes them all at about 150 words a minute. He used to recast. He
used to recast?
Yes.
He'd make hypothetical films with his
favourite
favourite
he'd recast
character.
Bananas in Pyjamas with Colin Farrell and different actors in the lead roles.
Right.
But he's 13 now, so he's almost a man in size, but he is very, very literate. And that's my way of getting to him. If I want him to go for a walk in the Botanic Gardens in Ballarat, I'll say, let's go and see the Iron Giant, which is the statue of William Wallace. He likes the film The Iron Giant. I can get him to do it. And it's just a way of connecting with him.
You say he's very literate. Is it common that people who are autistic can read and write but not necessarily speak?
Yes.
Okay.
It's hard to demonstrate it.
Right.
Now, Gracie was a lot more severe to start with. And when I started the picture communication system with her, she learnt the pictures very well, but she didn't repeat anything I said. And I was still using the pictures with her 6 years later, which is why there's this big book in front of me. Now, this is the cleaned up version of the book. This is the one you can bring through Australian Customs. The other one's got crumbs and sand and dirt.
Because
and
that book lives a normal life.
Absolutely. It goes everywhere with you. Gracie didn't demonstrate the ability to read, but one day I was showing her how to Google a favourite character, and I typed in ELMO. And then she took the mouse and she cursored backwards and she put in OSWALD, which is the name of a little purple octopus. Then she scrolled through the 250,000 entries for the other very famous Oswald and found Oswald the little blue octopus. So I thought, okay, she can read.
But because she wasn't communicative through verbal means, there would not necessarily be any way of knowing whether she could read or not.
And the only time, this is this pairing thing, what's important to her, the only time she saw the point of demonstrating this to me was to Google a clip on YouTube so she could watch Oswald the Octopus.
I have to ask, is there a history in your family of autism?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a nephew in the UK. He's 21 now. He's very severe, and because of the time that he was diagnosed, he would have been starting his intervention quite late for autism. He would have been 4 or 5. What was known then isn't, it's just come on so much now, and everybody knows that early intervention is the key. So Owen has never developed speech. He's got a huge picture exchange communication system, and he lives in supported accommodation now. But when Liam came along, we were very lucky to have been handed a book about applied behavioural analysis, which there would have been a conference very recently in Melbourne about this. And it's just going back to what you were saying. You're using what's interesting to that person.
Yes.
You're breaking the steps of what you want to teach them down to the steps that suit them. And you're teaching it to them in the way that they want to learn.
The notion of autism being hereditary can be shown. I think there's various kind of Jewish enclaves from particular parts of Poland who are vastly overrepresented in autism. I haven't heard of the Irish autistic.
Well, Irish people are very, very literary and very visual. And one of the things I find hardest about living in Ireland, because I'm Australian and a straight speaker and probably Asperger's myself, they talk in little circles of pictures. So they'd never say something in one word when they can use 15 to say
Right.
the same thing. So it is an unusual disability to have in a country like that. However, as you probably know, they have an enormous capacity for empathy and for caring for people in their society who may not be as strong as them. So it's very, very like Australia like that. They're looking after people who need more help.
Compared to all the other things you've had to deal with, the problem that you've solved with the iPad is a tiny problem. You have simply transposed that notion into an electronic form.
Literally looking out the window of the car and looking at an ad for iPhone on the side of a bus, my little pictorial brain just thought, oh, that looks like Gracie's book. And then it sort of stayed in my mind and itched at me, and I thought, I wonder, could I get hold of one of these iPhones? Now, I am a salesperson and probably a fairly persistent or tenacious or annoying person. So I blagged an iPhone out of a major Telefonica in Ireland, had a play with it, terrified of it when I first got it, put all Gracie's pictures, which by then I had on CD-ROM.
What, photo by photo?
I saved it to a file,
Okay.
moved it across and saved it in the phone, and I had the single pictures there. So she wanted a croissant. I open up the phone, I show her how to point to the picture of the croissant, I give her the croissant. And straight away, because she is very computer literate, she'd completely memorised the steps to do that and was able to get another croissant. Now, she's not a great big jelly ball. She uses the phone to request things other than food. But she, like a lot of autistic people, is extremely fussy. She likes things to be exactly as she wants them. And the ability to select things precisely gets rid of a lot of behaviour. But, I'll just do my lovely Velcro noise again, I couldn't put a row of pictures on the phone. And Gracie one of her favourite things is Vegemite toast cut into triangles.
Right.
A lot of people would agree that you can't eat it in squares.
It's a compound idea.
Exactly. You have to have 8 even triangles or it's not going to taste the same. So I needed someone who knew how to put those pictures in a row. And I found a games developer who was online. I Facebook stalked him.
You can't list them alphabetically, can you? You have to list them according to a different a pictorial logic? Is there such a thing?
Yeah, a pictorial logic and what makes sense to her. So she put the picture of the triangle and the picture of the black and the picture of the toaster.
I've got it. It's obvious.
Yeah. And I think that way, so it's probably easy for me to understand.
And you now have an app.
Yes.
I'm thinking, does this also, given that this is for communicating non-verbally, does it have... If one went on an overseas holiday to a country where they didn't speak the same language, you could presumably use this in the same way.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I actually used Gracie's book in Sicily when I went there in 2003 because I couldn't speak any Italian. Southern Italy, they don't have a lot of English, so I was actually using the book, and you can most definitely use the app. I was in Spain last year looking for dresses, couldn't think of the word, held up the camera, took a picture of a dress, added it to the app, and the lady started getting out dresses from behind the counter for me. So it does work very much in that way.
Has the app got a name? Is it do you go to the store and get it?
Yes, it's called Grace. It's named after my daughter Grace.
Of course.
And we just put in Grace App for Autism, which distinguishes it from the other Grace apps, which are in the App Store internationally. And it's available worldwide, has been since March last year. You just enter those words and it will come up in your store and download it. It's really good to know, especially for schools or for people who are in autism groups. For one iTunes account, you can buy Grace App, but you can put it on up to 30 different devices. And that means if you were sharing it around a classroom... Which
you probably may well be doing in a collective autistic environment? Yes.
You can individualise it to each device. So each child would have their own set of photos saved, but you only need to buy it once.
Well, I'm going to get the app and book a fare. Go somewhere where they don't speak English. I think it's
Go to Sicily. It's gorgeous.
It's a
Do you want to have
idea.
a little play of it? I'll just hand over my iPhone. Now, I use iPhone...
I will now use this to communicate something to you. Oh, no, not that. There you go. just in case you forget my name.